Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you're following from. Great to have you here today. Appreciate you joining me. Great show today. But first, before we start, would you just take a minute and sign in? Just let us know where you're watching from. It's always interesting to know where you're watching from. And just wherever you're watching at, whether it's YouTube or Facebook or the many places that this appears right now live, would you just sign in and let us know where you're from? We'd love to see that. And today on the show, man, what a great show. Les Carlson is here with us. A lot of Bloodgood fans out there, and Les Carlson Band today. We're going to talk about what's going on with them. We have Seth Montoya coming up in just a little while from Broken Curfew Records. And of course, Mangled Carpenter is the band, a good friend of Sanctuary from Sanctuary. And we're going to talk about him. Matt, his Intense Dose, will be interviewing him in just a little while. So some great things coming up. My illustrious, industrious co-host today, Jim Laverty, is here with us. Jim, there he is.
Pastor Bob. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good to be here.
Good to be here, dude. So Les Carlson in the house today.
Oh man, this is going to be really, really good.
Yeah.
Les just represents so much history to Christian metal and Christian rock music, and he is a father to the movement, and he was around in the beginning days of it all, and so we're really looking forward to spending some quality time with him.
Yes, we really are. So Jim, 16 days until Immortal Fest.
Wow.
Yeah, coming up.
Yeah, we are in prep mode for all of that, and our worship team is geared up, and we've got some special music planned for that particular service, and we hope that you guys can come out and join us and with our spiritual family all together.
Yes, and the Sunday of the 3-day weekend is the Sanctuary service in the morning, and so we're hoping that a lot of people can attend that. 2 different Immortal Fests, one in the middle of the summer, one at the end of the summer, and a great time. So Jim, you know, Sanctuary has been around. We will have our 40th anniversary next year. It's hard to believe we've been doing this for 40 years, but
it's the thing that I'm having trouble wrapping my mind around is that how can that be when I'm only 23?
I know. It's,
and of course, you're 33.
Work.
I know. I just like can't understand. Yeah, it's been around for 40 years.
Yeah.
Got it started back in the day, and it's still going to this day.
Going strong. You know, we want to invite people, and we're going to talk more about this next time, but we're going to do some Sanctuary videos, just 2-minute videos from people just talking about Sanctuary. What does Sanctuary mean to you? What is your experience? All of that. And we'll talk about it more next week, but be thinking about it. And we're going to have a drawing from that for some Sanctuary goodies as well. But that's coming up. And so that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and it's really funny to think that when we started Sanctuary, I was seriously 20 years old.
Yeah. Yes.
And
you're not now.
And I'm not now. But there's been a lot of years that have passed by, and a lot of incredible things that have happened over the course of 40 years. But just to think about the fact that my son is 20 years old. And when I was his age, we were starting churches. Man,
yeah, your youngest son.
That's crazy talk. Yeah, my youngest son. So.
Yeah, I know. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Jim, it's been great to do this show, and you've been here with me last week as well. And next week we have Glenn Kaiser on the show.
Oh yeah,
Glenn will be here. Roger Dale's going to be here also, talking about his brand new book. We want to make sure that we give him some time also to do that. The book is called "This Is What Happened," and if you haven't read it yet, you're going to want to do that. Roger will talk about writing the book and what it means to him, and then Jim, the week after that, we have Tommy Green with us. Tommy from Holy Name, that they've they've done a great job and with worship music these days, and we even do one of their songs.
Yeah, Fall on Your Knees.
Yeah.
And they have kind of broke the ice when it comes down to this new worship style.
Yes.
They were brave to come out with the style that they did. I salute them for that. And we've done their song numerous times here at the gathering.
Yes.
And that worship song works. And, I remember a couple times ago when we played it, and people were just the tears falling down. And just a worshipful atmosphere that it created.
Yes. And we're going to have some of our worship leaders from sanctuaries around the world with us also and talk about, we've got several worship projects that are going on right now. We'll talk about that also with Tommy and just share some of those things. Also, we've got our gathering coming up. The next one, we're doing Christmas in August. This should be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But wear your jackets.
Wear your jackets.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, and your parkas, because it'll probably be about 100 degrees outside. We don't want anybody to be cold.
This will pull us off just a little bit.
I know.
Yes.
I know. And boy, I tell you what, Bob, just to take a step backwards a few days, we just had the most incredible gathering in July, didn't we? Just this last weekend, we had such a wonderful spiritual family time. And, we had old Mike Fry and Sherry Mann Caruso and our Jen Waters and Crystal. We did Bread of Life, and it was just such a beautiful time together. The
first Sanctuary Worship album. It was kind of nice to do that again.
Yep, absolutely. And, just that it brings back that fact that we've been together all together for 40 years.
Yes, exactly.
And, that song Bread of Life is such a great illustration of what Christ did for us on the cross and how he has that one line that says, "All that the Father draws will come to me." And
love that.
It really puts us into perspective on how much God loves us.
Yes.
And how much that we didn't earn that love.
And be careful. You're going to cry, Jim. I know you. Jim talks about this song and he cries every time.
Poor Mike, he couldn't get through it.
No.
I mean, he was all choked up just listening to the song. And so I posted a little. If you're interested, you can go up on the Sanctuary Gathering side or even my side. I put a little post of that song, and it's gotten so many views on it because it is a wonderful illustration of how much Christ loves us and what He's done for us at the cross. So
yes, just awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we're excited to have Les with us here today. We're going to take a really short break, and we're going to come back with Les Carlson. I want to talk a little bit about our coffee today. This is my mug with a mug on a mug, right there. And in here, Headbangers Brew Coffee, our very own coffee, helps us keep the food ministry going, which is real important to us. Plus, it's the best tasting around. Folks, don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back with Les Carlson. Hello, Metal family. So I'm excited for the next Immortal Fest. Such great bands, Such great people. I hope you're going to be one of them. I'll be there hosting both events this summer. Really excited to spend time with the bands and to spend time with you. Sunday at the first event on the 28th of July will be the Sanctuary Day. We're going to have a service. We're going to have our worship team. We're going to have some special guests. We're going to have a good time. And I hope that you plan to come, and some surprises still to come too. So both events, 1st July, 26th to 28th, and the other the first week of September. Great bands, great time together, family time. We are metal, we are family. I hope to see you there. Excited for that to happen. Our guest today, Les Carlson, is in the house, and we're so excited to have him here with us today. Les, are you there?
I am here.
All right.
I'm trying to get up to your energy right now.
And we're trying to get up to yours.
Wow.
We all have to take a running start.
Yeah. I love that music. Who did that? Was that you playing bass on that?
No, but I'm thinking about new worship songs for Sanctuary, and I'm like, well, that would work.
Yeah, that's cool.
Is that good? Yeah.
I mean, you guys got it. You got it going on. It's really amazing what God has done. 40 years. I remember the bicycle rink.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about that. You know, that's such a good memory. I remember Bloodgood pulling up in your motorhome, and you were all, your families, traveling in a small motorhome. You came, and I'm just going to be honest, you came kind of beat up. You had some promoters that had treated you poorly, and you had all these things going on. And here we were, and we didn't know what we were doing either. This was the very first Christian metal festival, Metal Mardi Gras, 1987. And
wow.
Of course, you know, Bloodgood stole the show. I guess Barren Cross was okay too, but
yeah, they were pretty good.
Yeah,
as always.
But Bloodgood stole the show, and I'll never forget. You guys were a bit discouraged when you got there because it had really been a difficult time for you.
Yeah.
But your ministry was phenomenal. Your hearts were, as always, great, and I'll never forget watching the performance of Crucify Him that you did that night. That was just, you watched the crowd and they were visibly shaken by it. And what great memories. What great memories.
Well, there were so many bands that were anointed, for this very thing. And that's why Sanctuary exists. And there was a calling on bands all around the world, all at the same time, basically.
Yes.
And, when you said that we arrived beat up, I'm thinking at first, maybe I didn't understand it, but after being with the Lord for all these years, you understand that maybe that was a great place to be, beaten up in front of people and proclaiming His name and His glory. I look back at it and I'm actually very thankful that it was hard on us, because had we gotten the big record deal and just found our way to the top, I don't know that we've been taught the lessons that we learned, and they're way more valuable than anything else that I can imagine. So
yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's been a lot of lessons learned, and let's talk about that for a minute, because looking back at Bloodgood, you guys never had an easy road, but you had a phenomenal ministry, and I think sometimes the two are synonymous, don't you?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. It's you really are pressing into God every day just to get from one place to the next. And you have this sense of security in him, even though the adversary and the adversity is overwhelming sometimes. It would just release. I mean, the Holy Spirit would release through us on stage, and what an incredible experience to have that in my life and the rest of the guys, and I know that so many metal bands that they experience the same thing, and the Holy Spirit.
Yes, absolutely. And what an awesome opportunity just to share the Word of God in a totally unique way. It's really been awesome. Les, I know that you've fielded a lot of questions about Michael and Michael's passing, and to this day, all of us miss him a lot, and I'm sure you miss him more than anyone. But I want to focus on one event that you and I shared together. Um, the just a few months after Michael's passing, you and I were standing on the very stage that you had done your last concert before Michael's passing, and I was about ready to announce the Les Carlson band. Your, I believe, first time playing as the Les Carlson band, and and Les, I remember, I'm going to get a little vulnerable with you just for a minute, but I remember a little bit of your apprehension because you always had Michael there with you. You guys always kind of shared how should I say, the enthusiasm, and you kind of shared the power together on stage. And now you're about to do this alone, and you weren't alone. Your wife Joyce is one of my, I mean, she's one of my heroes. She's awesome, and to see Joyce, join you there was awesome. But tell us on that moment going out on stage, the first time on your own without Michael. What was that like for you?
Well, even now,
Yeah.
Every time I go back to the BMI Center, I have to relive this, sort of. And you guys, you saw Michael and I together.
Yeah.
You had been around us, and we even were together in interviews with you, and
Yes.
we just had this confident awareness of each other, and if he would say something, I would come back, and then he'd roll. I mean, we were like, I don't know, sometimes Abbott and Costello. Sometimes funny, sometimes very serious, and sometimes and always anointed by God, just because of the platform that we had together. It was, yeah, it was natural, and it flowed really well. Um, yeah, the experiences that we had together, yeah, they were deep, and they were meaningful, and they were powerful when you saw people affected by the Holy Spirit and coming to Jesus. All of those things I shared with my friend, and then to not have him is just, intense. But the glorious thing is that he's with the King of Kings. He's in paradise, and
Right. Well, that was interesting.
Thank you. Did Michael and Jesus orchestrate that? What was that?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Right. Yes.
That's a yes and amen.
Yes. Well,
Man.
and you went on the stage, and you were phenomenal. I mean, the fans were more than positive, and it was. I know that it was a difficult experience at first, but it taught me, and I know it taught you some things, and that is that, our best days, even though we've got such great memories, our best days are still ahead because
Yeah.
we still serve the same Jesus Christ that we have from the beginning, and we've gotten a little better at it.
Yeah.
We're more broken. We've learned more things. We're a little more humble than we used to be. And all of those things, less of me and more of him, really translate on stage, don't they?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, if you don't mind, I'd love to tell a Bloodgood story. And this is probably about maybe 10, 15 years ago when you guys were playing at Cornerstone. Of course, Sanctuary would always, we'd get a tent there and do worship and teaching. And you guys were playing in one of those big top tents, and the tent was packed. And I was standing there next to Doug Van Pelt, a good friend of mine, and we all know Doug. And you guys were playing, and you guys were just on, and you guys started playing the Messiah. And as you were singing that anthem, Les, and the band was backing you up, I just got filled with the Holy Spirit, like every fiber in my being just went, this is glorifying to the Lord. And I just remember it was almost like a worship element to your set. And I remember just getting filled with the Holy Spirit. And Doug looked at me and just said, those guys still got it right at that same moment. And he said, did you feel that? And I was like, yes, I did. And it was such a witness of the incredible power when you put Christ in the center of everything. And just had just a really neat moment there with Doug Van Pelt and with you guys playing, and we were side stage, and I mean, just that little taste of heaven was enough to encourage me to get through the rest of the week there at Cornerstone. And I thought I just wanted to share that with you, and it was such a great experience, and
Yes.
such an anointed song. So,
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I feel extremely fortunate to be in a band like Bloodgood that we were given songs like that. Those are gifts. Those songs are gifts from God.
Mm-hmm.
He is the one that gives us talents and all that. But then, if you're really waiting and asking for something meaningful, and then to have him bring that to mind, Crucify and Messiah, those two things were so powerful in our ministry. They were like the centerpiece in a Bloodgood show. And I mean, you can't get much greater than the crucifixion and the resurrection.
Yes.
In Christianity, right? And then the theatrics that God prepared. I was off as a younger man in the Broadway musical Hair and learning my craft as a theatrical performer. And when I got saved, I realized, I can use that for the glory of God. And so, we were able to do it. But yes, that song, The Messiah, David Safiro and I have talked about this many times. And back in the day when we'd be doing that song and we'd just look at each other and just start crying. I mean, just realizing that we were affected by it as well, right?
That's
as
awesome.
we were doing it. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Powerful, powerful song. Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you, Lord.
So you've got some interesting things coming up, Les, that I'd love to chat about. And, we could spend a few hours talking about great memories, and there are a million of them, but the best days are yet to come for all of us.
Awesome.
Tell us about this new movie that's about to be released. That sounds exciting.
Okay. Well, when people say to you, just give it to God,
Yeah.
How many times have you heard that? Well, when you get as old as me, you start to realize, there really is something to that. I think I've been walking with the Lord for 40 years now. And I told him when I realized 40 years, it's like, does that mean I get to the promised land here pretty soon? Or because it just feels like, you just keep learning and learning and learning. But do I get to that point where I can just go, yeah, I'm here? And the promised land is allowing him to be who he is,
Yes.
Lord of your life, totally. When I was a young Christian and I would read about the Jewish people that were led around in the desert, and I'm scratching my head, go, come on, guys. I mean, how come you haven't figured that out? And I realized, man, you haven't learned anything either. So you're going around the mountain, for 40 years. And there's just so much to learn from a God that has created all things.
Yes. Yes.
And I mean, how can we ever imagine that we would have anything together, even close to what he is or who he is? And so then you realize, why don't we just give it to him? So getting back to the movie, I didn't strive for that movie. I've always wanted to be in film. And I was just called up by a guy named Todd Sims. He's a movie producer and a Striper Bloodgood fan. And he called me up and said, I have a part in a movie that I'm doing. I'd like you to audition. And so I thought, wow, okay, I'll audition. So I auditioned. And it turns out that they flew me and Joyce to Lynchburg, Virginia. The movie is called Miracle on the Precipice. And I had a part as this hippie guy out on the path that tried to persuade this young boy to smoke some weed with him. And the young boy was trying to desperately get help for his father that was in an accident, and he needed to get help to his dad. And but anyway, I had a speaking part. And it was just an example of letting things go. And I next year will be in this film. A couple of the actors in the film you might know. Help me out here. The one guy he used to play Hercules. He's a Christian actor. Do you know who I'm talking about? Oh my gosh. And this is, folks, what happens when you're 75 and it's 6 o'clock in the morning. So. But and also the guy that starred in Nefarious, that movie, he was in the film.
Oh, great.
And then Kevin Sorbo.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Great.
So I was,
Sure.
yeah, and then
It was young Hercules.
Yeah. Nathan Gamble was the kid that was in a Dolphin Tale. So here I was in this movie with all these well-known actors and actresses, and had speaking parts, and now I get to join SAG because I was in a film, and I didn't strive for any of that. It was just kind of just landed. And then I did this release about my son. I don't know, did you guys see that at all?
Yes. Excellent. You sent it to me. Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So, and I mean, here's an example of Jesus years before I even knew him, laying a foundation, putting things down. With my 6-year-old son, I recorded this jam that he did, and it ended up here, and we gave it out to people for Father's Day.
As a tribute, yes.
As a tribute. But you see, God he's laying things down for every one of us. We're so important to him.
I love that. Love it. Yeah.
It's time for all of us, no matter where you're at in your walk, to stop and say, Lord, instead of saying, where are you, Lord? Come on, folks. He's there all the time.
Yes.
He never leaves you. He never forsakes you. We measure our progress by how we're doing. That's totally wrong. You measure your progress on who he is.
Yes,
and,
yes.
and that's your guarantee. And
It is.
so
He says, I'll never leave you. And the Old Testament says, for I've carved you in the palm of my hand. I've carved you there.
yeah,
You're not
yeah,
going anywhere. Yeah, I love
yeah,
that.
yeah. I mean, you cannot be. I mean, unless you flat out turn and deny him, you're fine.
Yeah,
You're struggling because you live in a world that is broken and it is filled with everything contrary to God.
yeah,
I mean, even things that look like God are not God,
yes,
oftentimes, and we see that in a lot of people's lives. And you have compassion in the sense that you're going, no, you're really not self-righteous. Really, He's righteous, and you're righteous, and you're holy because He says so. But you're not really walking the way that He walks, and so you're not a great witness to the world. You
yeah,
know, I mean, Bob, you and your mother and the sanctuary church doing what you do with the homeless is so inspiring. It's so like Jesus. Um, this is what brings life. These are the true blessings.
yeah. They
Uh,
really are the true blessings.
yeah, I had a dream last night. I used to have a sports car. I had a BMW sports car,
Who lived in that car?
M3. Yeah, and I didn't know what the dream was for, but now I do. You see, the sports car was good for a time, but it's gone. It's sold, and it has really no bearing on where I'm going in Christ. It was a nice thing to have, but it does not compare to what is being prepared for me and for my brothers and sisters.
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
to go from here to there, ultimately, and God has that. You
Yeah,
know,
absolutely. Well,
it's
Les, you've got some great things coming up. You, man, such great music. And I believe, even though you've had some phenomenal songs, I think your best writing days are ahead. Your maturity in the Lord, the things you've gone through, and dare I say, even your brokenness. That God uses our brokenness with the depths of His love,
yeah,
and so new material coming out. What's going on? You're starting a new album, possibly.
yeah, and uh, talking about my wife Joyce, what
Yeah,
she truly is amazing,
she
and
is.
yeah,
Yeah,
and she's really talented, and she spent many years serving Bloodgood as the road manager, the lighting person, uh, and really was kind of behind the scenes. And then to see her be able to get on stage because she's really a great performer. But I'm
yes.
excited that, excuse me, she's written some songs for the next album, and uh, she's got a song called "Bite My Tongue" that is just so
Mm,
amazing, so anointed, and it's going to reach a lot of people that are broken out there that are trying to find their worth. And yeah, it's going to be really amazing. We've already done the drum tracks to it, and we're adding some more guitar and things, but we're kind of on the way to doing
awesome.
things. And
Well,
I
Les,
flat out,
we need to
but
have you back on the show when you get a little further along and chat a little more about it. That would be
yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
Well, we're running out of time, man. It's been so good to have you here, and we have to do a part two, Jim. We need to bring him back and
Absolutely.
let's spend a little more time down memory lane too. I have more stories, and
yeah,
I'm sure you do too, and
yeah.
that would be awesome. Folks, don't go away. Seth Montoya is coming up with us in just a few minutes. Stay tuned right after this word.
Hey guys, DJ Rev here with the Warriors Night Out radio broadcast. Join us every week right here for 60 minutes of the best soul-shaking, bone-shattering, spirit-charging, faith-based rock and metal.
Break the cycle!
featuring all your favorite hard rock and heavy metal favorites from across the U.S. and around the world. The Warriors Night Out radio broadcast, the war cry of the faceless generation. Be sure to find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter X at WNO Rocks.
Welcome back to another excerpt section, whatever you want to call these little things. Intense dose. And I'm Match, and today I'm here with my good friend, Seth. Seth, where are you? I still can't get the arrow.
Yeah,
Seth,
I'm over here.
how would you like to introduce yourself and tell us who you are? And I'm going to talk about our history here in just a second, but
sounds good.
Why don't you tell us like who you are in the metal industry?
My name is Seth Montoya, and I am the singer and vocalist and guitarist and music writer of Mangled Carpenter. It's an extreme metal band with death metal and grindcore influences. I'm also in another band called Pulpit Vomit, which is mostly grindcore. Brain Matter, which is industrial metal. And also run a record label that's just turned a year old called Broken Curfew Records.
Yay! I have to applaud your efforts because I can, as somebody who likes more underground stuff and likes the more harder stuff, like I can appreciate where you went and the fact that you just took that dive into the deep end and said, you know what, we're going to start a label, we're going to get the word out, we're going to support these bands because they're not getting supported. That's why I'm applauding Broken Curfew Records, because man, it's needed. There's so much talent out there, there's so much aggression that everybody, we need Broken Curfew, let me tell you.
And that's what I was thinking with it, and I'd wanted to start, a record label for several years with my brother Chris, who does bass and on all our projects. So, and he is also the A&R guy for Broken Curfew Records. And
before you go any farther on that, are you admitting to something that could be a secret to some people? Because maybe on some of these projects there might be some aliases involved.
There's I mean, as far as like myself and my brother, it's like, I'm pretty honest when it comes to it, because I have a twin brother, Chris, and I also, in the entertainment industry, I was told by a manager that I needed to have a cool pseudonym. And so my last name is Olson. And but I always thought that they said, what kind of cool last name would you like? And I said, well, I always thought that the name Montoya from Bill Montoya, producer, sounded cool. So they're like, yeah, use that. So I've used that. And and my brother and I had known Pastor Bob since we were 13 or 14 years old. We started writing him from our bedroom in Great Falls, Montana, and we'd write him and he wrote back saying, I'm from Montana too. And we clicked and connected, and now we're 50 years old and still involved with Bob and Sanctuary, and it's been pretty cool.
Yeah, dude, we were banging around when we were I think I was still in high school. Weren't you guys like in your late teens when you came out?
We had just turned, when we got to Redondo Beach, we had turned 19 years old when we first got there. And I remember Tom Kohler coming over to the place, the beach house where we lived, to go to Sanctuary with about 10 other guys. And Tom Kohler showed up for 2 seconds. He walked upstairs. He put a big metal can in the middle of our living room and threw a bunch of firecrackers in it and left. Happy birthday.
Welcome. Here's your initiation.
Yeah, exactly. So that was pretty cool.
Kohler's a nut, man. And for those people that are watching that are not Sanctuarians, Tom Kohler was the Sanctuary secretary at all, and he was responsible for a lot of things. And then if you ever were to scour the interwebs and find something on YouTube called Sanctuary According to Thomas, that is the Tom that we are speaking of.
Yes, yes.
And gosh, I guess we could open up this chapter, but I don't want to take up too much of your time. But for those that are just tuning in or like, who is this wild, crazy looking guy? You weren't like that. I mean, you were kind of a metalhead. You guys were kind of metalheads back then, right? But you were kind of more like, how do I put this gently? Weren't you guys kind of like rocking the mullets back then a little bit?
Yeah. I had a mullet, and Chris, he didn't. He actually had his hair styled sort of like James Hetfield did back then, and he took one side of his head and he shaved it and then left some of it down, but sometimes he'd flip it over. But oh yeah, man, the 80s and 90s, especially the early 90s, were just like, it was like mullet. It was like Wayne's World and a bunch of references most people today wouldn't even know. But yeah, I definitely rocked the mullet with my back.
That's so funny. Yeah, man. I loved you guys. I was so glad that somebody else was closer to my age that was going to Sanctuary. I mean, basically, we were like a glorified youth group / college group as far as like the age bracket in the late 80s and early 90s.
Yeah.
So Christian rock, and in this case, metal, was a bedrock for you guys.
Yeah.
And you've continued to go boldly where hardly anybody has gone before.
Right.
And you're staying in the more aggressive stuff, darker, grindier, grindcore, etc. genres.
Yeah.
Would you say that your label focuses on that and that's what you're really trying to bring? Or like give us in a nutshell what Broken Curfew's kind of mission or goals are?
Yeah, well, basically what we wanted to do initially was we had our own bands, and we released some of our stuff through the Karen Collective and Rottweiler Records. And as much as I liked having those things go through there to get some more exposure, I wanted to do some things with the bands that I felt like I couldn't do unless they were on our own label. And so we decided to just put our 3 projects on the label, but then all of a sudden we were like, well, let's start to see if anybody else wants to join us. And so we got this band called Every Thought Captive, and they're kind of like a progressive metal. They're heavy. Glay was our next one, and they're like deathcore, kind of like impending doom type stuff. So, and then like Resurrected Divinity, they're like real like black and death metal, just really heavy stuff. And so that's always been my favorite. Basically, I wanted to sign bands that I wanted to listen to. When I write music, I write music that me and my brother who's writing it want to listen to. And that's the best way to do things, because there's going to be other people that like it, and there's going to be people that aren't. So like David Bowie said, you might as well make something that at least you like, because if you don't like it and everybody else hates it, then there's a no-win situation. Well,
I'm one of those people that like it. I like it all. And I like every band that you've just labeled off, and
we're going to keep it pretty extreme, but we are moving into some, because our deal is extreme, heavy, and experimental music. Because I do release some of my music soundtracks, which we hadn't really mentioned. I compose music for film, for feature films, and so I've released a couple of those on there too. And that's the other thing, I didn't know where to release my music on out there, so my composing stuff. So I was like, I'll release it there. Broken Curfew Records does want to focus on extreme metal, but we are also going to focus on some other heavy type music that's not overly extreme. I actually kind of like to call it safe metal in a sense, because it's it's something that everyone can listen to. You can play it for somebody at a youth group and they'll be like, oh yeah, that's cool, that jams. And some of the music that we do, like Mangle Carpenter, is just a little too heavy for a lot of people. They're just like, what is that? So, but yeah, the label's just more going to be for heavy, extreme, and experimental music. So we're pretty open. We're only a year old, and it's grown way more than we thought it was and exceeded our vision. And I've just left everything, up to God to see what he wanted to do with it, and we just keep rolling.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm just going to say that you guys fall into the intense category, because one of the things that we do with Intense Dose is we find intense people in the intense, right?
Yes.
It's all about the intense.
Yeah. Always the
gosh.
intense. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of how many other things that we could talk about that you're involved in, because people just don't know. Oh, you know what, though? I will say this one thing. I have to brag a little bit, because I am so happy that you're here on Pastor Bob Live with Sanctuary International, considering all of our past and the things that we've done.
Yeah.
But also, there hasn't been a lot of you visually online.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you what it means to me to see you here right now with us. Like, man, I just got to give you a big thanks in the middle of this interview, because we get to put your face out there. And both Bob and I are personally heartfelt proud of all the work that you're doing. And we can't applaud you enough, and we can't try to just encourage you. And I would hope that anyone that's watching this starts going down the Google hole and starts checking out all the crazy stuff that you've got going on.
Yeah. I mean,
I love it.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I want to do more things like this. And of course, I've always loved being involved in Sanctuary. Been a huge fan of Bob for the last 30, going on 40 years. And, you know, me and you've been friends for now probably 30 years. So it's been cool.
And you're wearing your Sanctuary pin. I can see it on your sleeve over there.
Yep, there it is. Yeah.
That makes you a Sanctuarian.
Yep, Sanctuary. Yes. It used to be the Rock and Roll Refuge. Now it is the metal. We are metal. We are family.
We are metal, and we are family.
So, but yes, I do a lot of things, like you were saying, from composing to post audio mixing in films to production. I stay so busy. Sometimes I don't know how I do all the things. I'm behind on writing some of my own music, but it's been cool getting some of our bands some exposure and getting, you know, music out there. And like, I think the biggest part about, say, a band like Mangle Carpenter is the extremity of it. You know, it's really cool that our song Lumberyard that we've just released on our album Salvation Syndrome is approaching 20,000 streams on Spotify. And I mean, mainstream wise, that's not huge, but for a small band like Mangle Carpenter, it is. And the reason I say that is because if we could get more people who like Christian metal to go and listen to it, we'd even get more, because I would say that easily 90% of the people that listen to our band are secular. I hear from mostly people who love the music, and they're like, and the cool thing is that's what I always wanted to do when coming up with this band. I want to do something, listen to what's going on in the secular world and go, here's an alternative, just like back in the day when people, Vengeance and Deliverance and Tourniquet were kind of alternatives for things that were going on. So, you know, I like to do music so that other people can go, hey, well, you're this is cool. How can you write this stuff? And what's your lyrics? And it's like, well, our lyrics are all from Mangle Carpenter are all from the Bible. The first album, Under the Shadow, was all biblical stories and taken from the Bible. This last album, Salvation Syndrome, was more like kind of like Paul would write a letter to the church. We kind of wrote a letter to the church, contemporary. You know, Salvation Syndrome is just basically about being Christians and kind of living under salvation and understanding you're saved and not really taking things too serious and not serious enough. But also, people can also be very judgmental of people that aren't Christians or even are Christians. And so I wanted to point things like that out. And of course, Lumberyard is our most popular song, and that's about taking the plank out of your eye. But
great line. Great song.
And people will, you know, these people in the secular market, and we even listen, you know, talk to a lot of them on Twitter and stuff, and they're just like, you know, effing love your guys' stuff. And it's hilarious because they also know that we're like this Christian band, but we don't get like this stigma of a Christian band because our imagery is there, the music is there, but
it's sheer brutality.
Like, and they're reading the lyrics and they're going, you know what, this stuff actually makes sense. If more Christians were like this, you know, maybe it wouldn't be so bad. And it's like, well,
and I've seen those comments too.
Yeah. So
on the different threads for you guys.
Yeah.
So let me just segue to another little iron in the fire that you've got going on.
Yeah.
Before we start wrapping things up. And this is kind of controversial.
Yeah.
but I'm going to talk about it anyway because you're intense. And that is, you kind of work in the horror motion picture field, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I've been in the horror industry producing films and writing music scores for a little over 10 years now. And the interesting thing is there's a lot of people, and Match, because some people in the industry too, like Bill Oberst Jr. and some other people. There are a lot of Christian people that are actually in the industry, and it may seem like it's something that wouldn't appeal because a lot of people do hear horror and think that it's glamorizing evil or horror, and it's like, but the thing that I've always liked about horror, and my dad would show us horror films growing up and be like, this isn't real, so it's fake, blah blah blah. But the thing that I think that people confuse about horror that I enjoy about it is that it's not actually I'm not rooting for the bad guy. Nobody is really, there are some people rooting for the bad guy, but those people are just kind of out there. I mean, it's kind of fun to go, hey, Jason with his, but horror movies are silly. They've always been silly, even the scary ones. That's what's funny about them, because they're kind of comedy. The other thing is like you're watching a good versus evil story. The Bible is full of good versus evil stories. The Bible could be considered a horror story.
Absolutely.
And in horror films, you get to see these characters who are fighting evil and trying to figure out how to overcome evil. And typically by the end of the film, somebody, a final girl or a final person, will have conquered or vanquished this bad entity, or even in the more paranormal films, the demon gets cast out of the person, and of course then there'll be another film where it comes back. But that's what evil does. It does kind of try to come back and thwart you again. And so yes, that's it's a different approach to things, but I've met a lot of people in the industry, and again, there's been opportunities to witness and to talk about my personal beliefs, and people really want to see genuine people. So if you have, my advice would be for people that are Christians, stop approaching things in a judgmental attitude just to criticize and judge, because that doesn't resonate with anybody. They'll not want to talk to you. It'll be a turnoff. But if you can relate to them and show them that you're a loving, caring person, you're cool with certain ideas of how the world works, and they'll be more open and receptive to what you're bringing to the table.
Right. Yeah. And that's how I treat it when I'm on set. And we could talk about that all day, but we've got a timeline here. And I'm sure Bob has some people that he wants to talk to or to bring back into the podcast today. But I think what we'll do is we'll pick this up, and maybe we can talk about this more again in the future. We'll do a part 2 because we love you. And, you're a sanctuarian, and people need to know that there are sanctuarians out there doing crazy stuff and giving the world a full frontal assault and salting it with the word and
intense dose.
An intense dose. I was going there. You got me.
I cut you off.
Yeah, man. I think people need to go down the rabbit hole and see what you got cooking. You got so many irons in the fire. If they were to try to find, like, what's a good gateway online for you? Like a website, or
they could go to SethMontoya.com has a link to all my personal projects and even the record label. There's BrokenCurfewRecords.com. More Horror is another handle I use and do some things on that. And
which a lot of people actually don't know, because you're not visible. There's nothing there, and it's a forum, discussion of the horror genre and different.
Yeah, so you don't see my face as much there, just my posts and some of my witty comments. But and that's pretty much the best way to find me. But and the handles are the same as the website addresses, and those all link to every place you want to be.
Well, that's good. We'll make sure to put it up here somewhere for you. I have to figure out
which side. That's fine.
We'll probably put it on this side. I'm trying to do the reverse mirror. It's going to be on this side, I think. But Yeah, man. Like we really want to just get behind anything that you're doing, and we love everything that you're doing. And it's not easy. It is
Yeah.
not easy because you're getting heat from both sides.
Yeah, that's
And
something I was going to mention earlier too. That's a hard one. Like you get heat from the Christian side that says, you know, bands like this can't be Christian, imagery is not right. Oh, yes, we understand your lyrics or this, or you know, or try to critique your, you know, writing style, or they say you can't, nobody can play this fast. And then you link them to bands like Cattle Decapitation and Infant Annihilator, Aborted, and these guys have like 9 million streams, and it's like, this is what people are listening to. We're bringing this message behind the music. And then of course, you know, some of the secular side going, you know, this stuff, you know, well, things you've heard.
it's Christian, it can't be that good.
Yeah,
Christian rock.
Yeah. Well, and you know, I don't blame a lot of people in the secular world for being dissatisfied or, you know, have contempt for a lot of people or a lot of things about Christianity, because it's not really in a really good place all the time, and we need to do better, all of us. I need to do better. We all do. So, but I enjoy chatting with you and love Sanctuary, Bob, and you, and I'm glad you brought me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Well, like I said earlier, man, it's just a hard thing for us because we love you and we've always loved hearing about all the things that you've got going on. And we just want to encourage the world out there and anyone that's watching these podcasts to check out what all the irons that you've got in the fire, man. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Well, I'm enjoying it so far.
Well, so are we.
Good.
Keep it up, man.
Awesome.
All right.
We'll do.
So back to you, Bob.
Enjoyed that interview, and really great job, and so good to see Seth. I'm so proud of that guy, and we have a lot of years that we've been friends. He and his brother Chris, and Chris's son was just with us this last Sunday. Great to have him here, and so still feel like family, and I appreciate that. And Matt and Match and Seth, I'm so proud of both of you and love you both very much. Folks, it's been a great show. John, our producer, is here with us. John, come on for a second. There he is.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Yes. So, John, can I just say in front of everyone how thankful I am for what you do? You make us look good.
Well, I mean, I think the branding and the imaging and everything is super important, because if we're going to reach a culture and reach a community, I think that there's a spirit of excellence, I think, that comes along. I don't always get it right. Saw a couple glitches this morning. When you're one person multitasking, you can stumble from time to time, but I appreciate the grace, and I just want to say thank you to every person that is tuning in with us every week here on Sanctuary Live.
We have a good audience.
Please spread the word.
Yes.
Like, share, subscribe. It is so important that there's people that need to hear the message that is communicated here every week. We got great bands. We talk music, but most importantly, just to be able to give somebody a source of hope. I'm real strong on that. And Bob, whenever you and I talk, I always reflect that.
Awesome. So we've got Glenn Kaiser with us next week. We're excited. Glenn has been a good friend for a whole lot of years, and excited to have him on, along with Roger Dale as my co-host. Roger Dale Martin, you remember him from Vengeance, and
that's going to be a great show.
Yeah, and so he'll be here. We're going to talk about his new book that is still #1 in the music history genre, and it's #1. I'm talking about Christian, secular, everything. This book is doing really well. Excited to see that. So, John, as always, we got some great things coming up. We have Tommy Green that'll be here with us.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that one. I've been a fan of Holy Name. I came across them accidentally one night when I was working third shift, and I've been stuck ever since. And so, just talk about music that expresses the intensity of worship.
Yes.
You know, there's something I think that really takes, because in our lives we get put in a position where there's a lot of people that are watching that are in the deepest of the depths of the pit. You know, the Bible's encouraging when it talks about, yea, though I walk beside the valley of the shadow of death, or yea, though I walk over the valley of the shadow of death. That's not what it says. And something,
Yes.
you talk about things that are guaranteed in life, you know, death, taxes, and
Yes.
walking
Yes.
through the valley of the shadow of death. And, you know, just to be, you know, Tommy, what Holy Name is doing is, I think it's meeting people realistically with where they are in their walk with the Lord. And, you know, but the great thing is that there is hope.
Yes, and it's very current. We're going to talk about how God is leading so many people to lead this movement with worship. And
Yes.
we have the sanctuary worship leaders from around the world that'll be joining us that day too. And, you know, some good stuff ahead. We've got other guests that will be joining us. We've got Denny Hurst will be here from Steiger International. That's going to be a good one. We got Jimmy Brown. We got a few other folks ahead on some shows.
I will make a mention of this, guys, as again, we're, you know, like the $6 million man, we want to get faster, stronger, you know, everything with our presentation. But in this week's video, I'm going to encourage you, if there are guests that you would like to see
Yes.
on Sanctuary Live, or if there are topics that you want us to address on Sanctuary Live, please post those down below this video.
Yes.
That kind of helps us guide and direct how we proceed going forward, because you know, Sanctuary is a community, and so we want to entertain, we want to check out the bands, but most importantly, we want you to feel that you walk away with something that is impacting your life in some capacity.
To glorify the Lord. Yes, we do.
If that's not happening, then, you know, there's no reason that we exist or what that was.
Yes. And folks, don't forget to join me every day, Pastor Bob's Coffee Break. We do the same thing there. We will be answering your questions. And folks, until next time, thank you for joining me and all of our great guests today. And folks, don't forget, you are blessed. So go
And be a blessing.
Yes. Bye-bye.
God bless you guys.